Jade Helm 15 was a United States military training exercise that took place from July 15th to September 15th, 2015, across several southwestern states. What was intended as a routine multi-state training operation for Special Operations Forces quickly became the subject of intense conspiracy theories and public concern. The conspiracy theory claimed that Jade Helm 15 was actually a covert operation by the federal government to impose martial law, confiscate firearms, and detain American citizens in FEMA camps. Proponents of the theory pointed to the exercise's motto, "Master the human domain," as evidence of sinister intent. Fears were particularly pronounced in Texas, where some citizens believed the state was labeled as hostile territory in operation maps. This led to widespread speculation about impending military occupation and the use of closed Walmart stores as supply bases or detention centers. The conspiracy gained traction on social media and alternative news websites, eventually catching the attention of mainstream media and politicians. Texas Governor Greg Abbott even ordered the Texas State Guard to monitor the exercise, further legitimizing public concerns. Despite official explanations and assurances from military and government officials that Jade Helm 15 was simply a training exercise, the conspiracy theory persisted. It highlighted the deep-seated distrust some Americans have towards the federal government and the power of misinformation in the digital age. Ultimately, Jade Helm 15 concluded without incident, but the conspiracy theory surrounding it remains.
And Yahushua knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? Matthew chapter 12, verse 25 and 26. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honor to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who were well. Peace and blessings to our Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Haran coming back at you with another lesson, low and to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and I have this article titled, ICE Prepares Full Assault on 5 Democrat Cities as LA Goes into Lockdown. Okay, and this was dated yesterday, June 11th, 2025. And we're going to jump right into it. All right, it says, new reports have emerged of escalating tensions across the United States as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, prepared to deploy tactical units to 5 Democrat-run cities: New York City, Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Northern Virginia's Alexandria. Interesting. Amid ongoing immigration enforcement operations. The announcement follows days of violent protests in Los Angeles, which have led to a citywide lockdown and drawn sharp criticism from California Governor Gavin Newsom. All right, and this is all part of the orchestrated chaos that we've been talking about. And through this orchestrated chaos, they're looking for a reaction which will bring in the solution of martial law. And we know this is going to happen because they've also confirmed it. You know, remember, both sides are playing on the same team. And the people are the ones who are being played. And ultimately, they're going to bear the brunt of this judgment that the Heavenly Father Yahweh is going to bring upon this place, especially against you tribes. Okay, you non-elect, 2/3 wicked-ass people, all right, who have forsaken the way of Yahweh Basham Yahushai, even with the prophets coming out on the scene. And we said this was going to happen because over the past couple of months, you've had a lot of Jake doing videos on their disdain towards the Hebrew Israelites, specifically towards the prophets, okay? And if you speak against the prophets, you're not speaking against us, you're speaking against him who sent us, all right? And he who sent us a message to give to this world, all right, of the coming destruction, the coming judgment, okay? Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, the 4th verse, is very explicit when it talks about sparing none, okay? People getting beat up, killed, destroyed, pummeled, okay, raped. All right, it's gonna be crazy out here. All right, and this is the beginning stages of it. All right. So it says, these developments have ignited a fierce debate over immigration policy, federal authority, and public safety with both sides accusing the other of exacerbating the crisis, and that's a division. Okay, that is a division happening from top, which is going to lead all the way to the people. All right, because it's all being orchestrated. It's all something known as agitation propaganda. Okay, they will be justified in bringing in the troops in the streets because they've trained about this. All right, we're going to go into that, something known as Jade Helm. All right, what that all means. Okay, it says Los Angeles has been at the epicenter of the unrest, with protests erupting in response to ICE raids targeting undocumented immigrants. All right, and that's undocumented immigrants is a very clever way of setting the tone that eventually anyone who's undocumented, all right, will be facing, penalties. Okay, whether it's these FEMA camps, which are going to be Walmart centers being turned into FEMA camps, because that's what the whole practicing of Jade Helm. All right, when you look at the logo of Jade Helm and you look at the logo of Walmart, it's the same exact thing, just in a different color. All right, different symbols, different color, but it's the same exact thing. All right, I'll probably use it as my thumbnail. All right, once the video is done. So continue, it says, for 5 days, rioters have clashed with law enforcement, setting cars ablaze, looting businesses, and attacking officers with rocks, fireworks, and cement bricks. All right, like I said, this is all agent shit. All right, agent provocateurs, and even Trump said it. He said, "No, this is nothing but professionals, paid professionals, bringing all this harm and chaos into our cities." So he already telegraphed what's actually going on behind the scenes, and he says it. They tell you these things, and in back in the Roman Empire, they had this thing called, well, I believe oh damn, what's that word? It's like a proverb, right? And I believe they took that from the scriptures, but it says, it goes something to the effect of he who is deceived, let him be deceived, right? In other words, we're gonna put out the deception, and whoever it falls on or whoever it works on, that's on you, right? Because we tell you exactly what we're doing. So if you still get deceived by it, then that's on you, type of thing, And the Lord, the scriptures talk about how they're going to bring in this system by way of deception. Okay, so this is all part of the deception. Hey, that's why the scriptures tell you in 2 Corinthians 2:11 that we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Okay, lest he should get an advantage of us, but we are not ignorant of his devices, man. So his thoughts, his inner plans, his agendas, we're not ignorant of these things. Okay, his tactics. Okay, it says the violence prompted Mayor Karen Bass to declare a local emergency and impose an 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in the downtown area, where the unrest has been most intense. Okay, and that is all right, California, all right, in their trainings is labeled as a hostile territory, okay, along with Texas, okay, and I believe Utah as well, all right, and many different states around the southwestern states, all right, predominantly because there's a lot of people that own a lot of guns and shit, so that's what they're gonna be setting the tone, all right, to come against those people who can defend themselves before they come in full blast. All right, it says Bass emphasized that the curfew is limited to the affected zones, stating, that's the word, affected, right? Soon it's going to be infected. Says some of the imagery of the protests and the violence gives the appearance as though this is a citywide crisis, and it is not. Eventually will be. Okay, you got to start somewhere. It says at least 23 business. Interesting, the number there, 23. Right, 3 times 2 or 2 times 3, 6. They have to put that in there. Okay, his number is 603 scoring 6, so he has to be associated with the vibration of the number 6. Okay, it says at least 23 businesses have been looted, and the city is grappling with widespread vandalism, including graffiti blanketing multiple blocks. Okay, the situation, and what's funny? How all these things are happening within a span of a few days over ICE raids. ICE ain't start raiding people just last week, bro. They were doing this back during Trump's first term. They were getting people, man. People forgot. There wasn't no protest like this, And you had this whole CV thing happen. Niggas was on lockdown. People couldn't go to work. Nobody was storming the streets like this. But all of a sudden, because, oh, they're migrants, this is our land. Nah, bro, stop playing. All right, stop playing. It says the situation escalated further when President Donald Trump ordered the deployment of 700 Marines and 4,100 National Guard troops to assist the Los Angeles Police Department in restoring order. You see that? Ordo ab chaos. Order out of chaos. This is literally their plan. Okay? And it will only intensify and increase and include a vast amount of people. It's not just going to be ICE raids. No, it's going to be everything else. You don't agree with the new system? This is what's going to happen. And this is all happening coincidentally soon after the Who Dat Treaty is complete, and also when Palantir, which is a huge company that stores a lot of database, Trump says, oh, we're tapping on Palantir to start gathering Americans database, right, to find out who's domestic teas and so on and so forth. Ironically, this whole thing blows up, starts happening, right? Very interesting. It says Trump described the city as a, quote, trash heap, a heap of ruins, right, with entire neighborhoods under control of criminals vowing to liberate Los Angeles and make it free, clean, and safe again. This is all in quotes. All right, there's another chance, like I said. There's another chance for them to bring in that martial law. All right, you're also going to see them introducing a lot of the AI technology, okay, that they've been waiting to use. Okay, so this is all part of why these things are going to be brought into the streets. Because they try bringing robot dogs into New York City, niggas say, hey, we ain't with that. So now they have to come up with a different reason. New York is on the list. All right, New York City is on the list. It says his rhetoric has drawn sharp criticism from local leaders who argue that the federal response is inflaming tensions rather than resolving them. So Trump is already breaking posse comitatus, okay, by sending the Marines and, 700 Marines, bro. And they're engaging in working with the law, with LAPD. What's going on? This is like crazy. But see, Americans don't even know what the hell is going on. So to them, it's just like, oh, it's just a left-right kind of thing. Nah, it ain't a left-right kind of thing. They're all working together against you. Okay? And this is the step that they have to do. It's necessary for them to play the bad guy, good guy shit. Gavin Newsom is a demon. So for him all of a sudden to stand up and say, oh, Trump, you'll come and arrest me. Yeah, that's a tone setter. They're going to be arresting people. It's all part of the trainings that they've done. Okay? Arresting people who are political dissents. That's what they call them. Right? It says, in a nationally televised address on June 10th, 2025, Gavin Newsom delivered an impassioned critique of the federal government's actions, warning that the deployment of troops and ICE agents signals a broader threat to democracy. See? They're telling you, all right, that they're coming for everyone, man. They got to come get your guns first, all right, and then eventually come get your food and then the people, okay? This isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles, Newsom said, visibly emotional. Yeah, he's just acting, bro. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. You hear this? You hear this? He just told you the playbook. Newsom accused the Trump administration of targeting vulnerable communities and undermining the principles of checks and balances, calling it a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project. Okay? While Newsom briefly condemned the violence, warning protesters that they would face jail time, his primary focus was on criticizing the federal response. He argued that the administration's aggressive tactics are part of a broader pattern of authoritarianism, citing Trump's past actions such as firing government watchdogs as evidence of overreach. It says the planned ICE operations in New York City, Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Alexandria, Egypt, right, have sparked protests in these areas as well. Okay, and these are all inorganic protests. These are all created, all right, by those who are looking for the solution that they they've been planning for all these years. Okay, and it's interesting because I'm going to jump into something else, all right, otherwise known as Jade Helm 15. Okay, and this happened back in 2015, so 10 years ago. All right, and it took place from July 15th to September 15th. All right, so a few months, I believe, 3 months, July, August, September. All right, 2 months, 2.5, 3 months around there. All right, and this is what they say about it. All right, again, remember, this is all preparation. Okay, preparation for the ultimate takeover. Okay, it says the Jade Helm 15 operations were based on the Jade Helm 15 United States military training exercise, which took place in multiple U.S. states between July 15th and September 15, 2015. The exercise, which involved 1,200 personnel from 4 of the 5 branches of the U.S. military, was designed to train soldiers in skills needed to operate in overseas combat environments, including maneuvering through civilian populations. Now, that you got that should be a cause for pause, right? In the sense that military people or people in the military, you can ask anyone who's in the military or who has served before, right? They'll tell you that training typically happens in a terrain or in a place that they eventually will go to, right? So they're preparing. Why would you train in Afghanistan if you're going to be in Dubai? That doesn't make sense. Why would you train in the jungles of Africa if you're going to be running on in the swamps of Louisiana or some shit? You see what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to be training in the desert if you're going to be working in a mountainous area. It doesn't work like that, right? They always train, right, and they use the terrain that's something that they're going to be familiar with. Okay, when you have training that goes into house shootings, house arrests, right? All those videos that we show you in Gray State, that trailer, how the troops come into homes in the middle of the night and all these different things, surveillance everywhere. Yes, that is what they've been training for. Remember, there's over 400 million Americans on this land right now. Okay, I say 400, it might be more, all right? But I say that because 400 million people and you got thousands of troops, they got to have ammo. And you got a vast amount of these 400 million people that have weapons, they have guns, they have ammunition, they're ready to go. Okay, different states. So in order for them to really have that ability to conquer, it's gonna be multiple things that they have to do. All right, they're gonna have to affect the economy. They're gonna have to affect health. It's all through fear. Okay, and ultimately they're gonna have to create these scenarios that's gonna have them be justified in making it illegal to have certain types of weapons. They've been trying it for years. All these so-called mass shootings that you've been seeing in the schools and all these, that doesn't make sense. It never makes sense, right? So-called the so-called perpetrator always has this manifesto, right, that is found later on, and then they always end up mysteriously. They either shoot themselves or they get shot or they're never arrested, right? It's like this dude goes into a school. They always have this intention for school children, which is kind of weird, right? But it just happens randomly out of nowhere. It's, you know what I'm saying? They go in there, they do their thing, right? You never really see no victims. You never really see no real shit. It just happens, and the news talks about it. They never show you the real victim, what happened to him. Was he arrested? Did he got like nothing? They just tell you what happened, and that's it. Oh, we're doing an investigation. We just found out that he had a manifesto, and he was saying something online, and this is the type of gun he was using, AR-15, and man, shut up. All right, the same playbook every single time, and people never catch on to it. Okay, but let's read. It says the announcements of these trainings, training exercises raised concerns and generated conspiracy theories. All right, they call it conspiracy theories, but these are true. Okay, so now before I go into anything else, I wanted to go into the word Jade. Right, when you go into that word Jade, all right, it says here, worn out, or it says, no, not the one. Oh, I think there you go. To tire out, to make dull, to weary. All right, to jade, something is jaded. Like, let's say, oh, your pencil is jaded. That means it's worn out. It's like it's faint. It can't really operate on optimum levels. Okay, so that's what jade all right, means. Now, Helm, okay, is an acronym. Okay, Helm is an acronym, which is, let's see if I can find it real quick here. Jade, Helm is an acronym which stands for Homeland Eradication of Local Militants. Okay, Helm, HELM, Homeland Eradication of Local Militants. Okay, now, let's see. So you're using troops, okay, to engage in operations in civilian populations, all right, maneuvering through environments and maneuvering through civilian populations here in America. And the map that they use, some of the places that they're training or doing this operation, they labeled it hostile. And lo and behold, California, specifically Southern Cal, SoCal, is part of where they did the trainings and where they called it hostile. Okay? It says the joint exercise in realistic military training, known as Jade Helm, was sponsored by the United States Special Operations Command and involved the United States Army Special Operations Command and Joint Special Operations Command with other U.S. military units in multiple states, including Texas, Arizona, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico, and Utah. Its stated purpose was to, quote, improve the Special Operations Force's capability as part of the national security strategy, end quote, whatever the hell that means, right? It was coordinated and led by Eglin Air Force Base, an Air Force Material Command base in Northwest Florida. Approximately 1,200 troops were engaged over the course of the exercise. They were mainly Army Green Beret, but also a small group of Navy SEALs and Air Force Special Operations troops, as well as conventional Army infantry, although the initial request to state officials from USOCOM, which is United States Special Operations Command, listed elements of the United States Marine Corps Forces Special Operations Command, Marine Expeditionary Units, the 82nd Airborne Division, and interagency partners as participants. Troops engaging in the exercise assumed the roles of either occupying or resistance forces. Most locations were in sparsely populated arid regions near small towns. Some participants wore civilian attire and drove civilian vehicles. So, who are they training? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. It says maps of the exercise included areas of the United States such as Colorado and California, where no actual operations were planned. The locations include Texas, and then it goes on and on and on. Right? It says then it jumps to conspiracy theories, right? Which typically tend to be true, okay? But in order for them to deviate or divert people's attention from the truth, they call it a conspiracy theory, okay? But it says the conspiracy theories seem to emanate from the map shown here from the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, which divides the region into 4 colors, with 2 hostile states, 2 permissive states, 2 states leaning one way or the other, and California divided. So that means it's not going to stand. Jim Shea of the Hartford Courant wrote that the conspiracy theories included a psychological operation aimed at getting people used to seeing military forces on the streets so that they do not realize when an invasion actually takes place. An international operation aimed to seize people's firearms recently closed Walmarts used by the military to stockpile supplies for Chinese troops who will be arriving to disarm Americans, and a military plan to round up political dissidents and remove key political figures who may be against the imposition of martial law. So when you have Gavin Newsom going around saying, well, the president should come and arrest me and all these different things, that is a tone setter because eventually that will happen. All right, during the time of martial law, anyone who's in politics or outside of politics who goes against it or brings out the truth about what's really going on, that goes against the given narrative, will be arrested. Okay, and I believe they said 6 months before martial law, they're going to be coming after, religious leaders and so on and so forth. So we will see. Other theories have described Jade Helm as a secret plot to impose martial law, confiscate firearms, invade Texas, and institute total population control. That is exactly what's coming. The conspiracy theories also included concern about the name of the exercise, with the Jade possibly referring to China. Not sure exactly the connection there. Or possibly an acronym for artificial intelligence. Interesting, very interesting, especially with what's going on now, again, with Palantir, right? Developed by the US military, okay? So again, Jade going into, well, it says artificial intelligence. It could mean a name for artificial intelligence, right? But the very meaning means to weary, to wear out, okay? You know what I'm saying? To wear out. If your guns and everything gets taken away and all these different things, you're gonna be shorted. You're not gonna be as effective. All right, you're gonna be worn out a lot quicker once they start storming the cities, right? And Helm means homeland eradication of local militants. Anyone who's against them, who might be able to have some type of training from the forces or weapons or anything like that. All right, you're gonna be against the government. Well, they're gonna come to eradicate. All right. Let's read. It says Eric Johnston, formed a counter Jade Helm group to monitor the training operations and to practice counterinsurgency. Tactics and intelligence gathering. In August, 3 men were arrested by the FBI and accused of plotting to resist Jade Helm with weapons and homemade bombs. 2 of the 3 men reportedly told the owner of a military surplus store that they believe Jade Helm is a cover for the imposition of martial law in the United States. There was some tie-in between the Jade Helm 15 exercise and a resurgence of the FEMA camps conspiracy theory, with the exercise raising fear that it was a dry run for forcing citizens into internment camps. These fears were demonstrated to have been unfounded when the exercise was completed and no one was placed into a camp, right? And it happened 10 years ago, all right? Long enough for people who are ready to go, all right? They're 10 years older now. Imagine being 50, now you're 60, okay? And 60, a 60-year-old now compared to a 60-year-old back 20, 30, 40 years ago are 2 completely different 60-year-olds, all right? If you were 20, now you're 30. Your priorities at 30 is completely different from from somebody who was 30 years old 20, 30 years ago. Okay? Life is different. So 10 years is a long time. It's a short time, but it's a long time enough for them to actually be able to do many different psychological operations. All right? You have all these predictive programming and all these different things. Over 10 years, people have become super effeminate. All right, think of the last 10 years, from 2015 to now, you have an explosion of TGs, you have an explosion of men becoming effeminate, women becoming masculine, all kinds of different shit has happened. All right, the food being poisoned, and how many recalls have we had over the past couple of years? Right? Oh, every now and again, this recall of this and recall of that, and it's all mostly food that people eat. You know, there's a voluntary recall of meat, a voluntary recall of eggs. You know, we found out it has salmonella and all these different things. Where is the investigation? Right? Where are all these investigations? When are they going to start actually holding these companies accountable for pushing out food that's already contaminated? Okay? FDA, do you do your test? Why are you approving all this shit and then you turn around and recall? What's going on, man? Right? And the American people are just sitting on their asses and these things happen and it's like, oh yeah, whatever, keep on going, living your life. These are all part of the psychological operations they've been doing on the people. Okay, you had Vanessa, the whole pandemic thing that happened back in 2020. That was 5 years ago, right? That was a huge operation, and it sped up everything. It sped everything up. Okay, by at least 50 to 70 years. That's just that 5-year operation. By 50 to 70 years. That's crazy. Okay, and look at all the technology. Look at that. Think about it. AI and all these different things. This is what they've been preparing for. Okay, so they've done the practice, they've done the tests and everything, the physical part. Now comes in the AI part to really push this thing all right, into the system, really set this thing up. You know, problem, reaction, solution, order, archaeo, the Hegelian dialectic, the thesis, antithesis, synthesis, the whole shebang is about to play out. Okay, it's about to play out. All right, and this is all biblical prophecy. Okay, there's a book of Ezekiel, chapter 21 and verse 7. It says, and it shall be when they there you go. And it shall be when they say unto thee, wherefore sighest thou? Right? When we sigh and we cry, okay, that thou shalt answer for the tidings, because it cometh, and every heart shall melt, and all hands shall be feeble, and every spirit shall faint, and all knees shall be weak as water. Behold, it cometh, and it shall be brought to pass, saith the Lord Yahweh power. Okay, it's on its way, it's coming. The troubles, okay, Jacob's trouble is coming. It says, again, the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, say, a sword is sharpened and is also furbished, meaning it's polished. All right, that sword is the military. Okay, and it's being polished because they're doing these trainings. All right, and this is all being orchestrated by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai ultimately. Okay, it says it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. Okay, meaning terrible death is coming. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. So that glittering, all right, when your sword is glittering, that means it is super sharp, clean, crispy, sharp. It could cut through a piece of paper. All right, that's how sharp it is. You just slice that, cut. All right, it says, and he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. Okay, this sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. And who is the slayer? Esau, Edom. Okay, Esau, Edom. Let's get that. Let's get that real quick. Let's see what we got. There's a book of Psalm chapter 17 verse 13. It says, arise, O Lord Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Okay, which is thy sword. So the sword, the Lord's sword is the wicked, which is Esau, Edom. But he's also given Esau, Edom the sword that he's going to use. So Esau, Edom becomes the Lord's sword, then makes him the slayer. Right? Esau, Edom is the slayer that the Lord has given the power, all right, otherwise the sword into his hand, all right, to what? To destroy the people who the Lord detests. All you wicked ass, 2/3 ass people, you're going to suffer this. Okay? You will suffer this. It says, cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people, it shall be upon all the princes of Israel. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh. Okay? So all you fake ass leaders, all you wicked ass niggas, even in Israel, all right, and outside of Israel, all you jakes that have been doing videos trying to mock the prophets and all these different things, this is for you. Okay? This is coming for you. All right? So we've told you, we've given you the warning. The Lord said, give them warning whether they hear or whether they forbear. Once the elect are sealed, all hell's going to break loose out here, man. All right? Let's get this last one here in Ezekiel, because this is what's coming. All right? This is what's coming. They doing all these tests, not for nothing. All right? There's a book of Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. It says, and the Lord Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city. All right? The city, they're doing all these tests in the cities. All right? Back then, it was talking about the streets of Jerusalem. But now, Jerusalem is a people. All right? These inner cities is made out of Jakes, mostly. Right? Right now, what's going on in LA is mostly with Jake, Northern Kingdom. All right? Through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry. Right? In the previous chapter we read in Ezekiel 21, Ezekiel was sighing. And the people ask him, well, what's this all about? And then he explained to them, this is what's coming. All right? They sigh and not cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. All the detestable sins that we have to witness over here. All right? We mourn on a daily basis. We're tired of it, you know, because it ain't right. Everything is out of course. Right? Psalms 82. Everything is out of course. The whole world, the whole earth is out of course. And we yearn for it to be brought right back into course. But before that, the Lord has to do a cleansing. All right? He has to punish. All right? He has to destroy. All right. It says he has to amend. He has to make a right. Okay. That's just the laws of nature. You break, you fix. Simple. It says, and to the others he said in my hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Right? And they shall be like madmen, sparing none. Okay? Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Right? Show no mercy. That's what that means. Isn't that a mantra for the New World Order? Expect no mercy. All right? It says, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children. Kill them all. Old, young, girls, women, little children, all of them. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark. The word mark go into the word tawa, which means marked for exemption from death and destruction and judgment. Okay? And begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. All right? So this same exact precept here is reiterated in the book of 2nd Ezra 16, where it says what? Let's get that real quick. Let's get that real quick. 2nd Ezra chapter 16. And let's get that in 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and verse 68. It says, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, right? Jade, Helm. That's the whole concept of it, right? It says, and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot. Okay? Trodden under whose foot? The military. Okay? For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, coming into your cities. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Predominantly the Israelites. Okay? The Lord says, my people. My people. Okay? He's bringing the judgment on his own people. The same people we've been warning about. All right? We've been warning about these things that are yet to happen. All right? And those people are the ones who don't have that mark of exemption from judgment. Okay? For they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods, and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. So those are the ones who are going to have that mark of exemption. That's what's going to set us apart from everybody else, because clearly, why are people getting cooked and destroyed, but these men are not? Because they have something that's protecting them from that coming destruction, right? So going back to Ezekiel 9, verse 6, continues, says, slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Okay? So that's what's coming, man. That is what's coming. Judgment, destruction, suffering, trouble. Anyway, I'm going to leave it off there. Lord willing, you're edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash, the water Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Shalom.